Well, I've always been interested in politics because I always thought it was the best way to make a social contribution. And I think I felt that long before I could pronounce the words social contribution. My parents knew a city council candidate. This was in Monterey Park. I actually grew up in the San Gabriel Valley. And he was running on an open housing platform. And folks today can't even imagine that there was a time when it was controversial to say anybody of any ethnicity could buy any home that they could afford. That was actually controversial in the 60s. I'd like to think that at age 7 I understood the issue. I do know that I knew how to stuff envelopes, and my parents had me do that, and as a result of that act of child abuse, I'm here today. But from that, through the early campaigns for Congressman George Brown, who was the first congressman to oppose the Vietnam War, and all the way through the process, I was always the envelope stuffer, I was always the teenage kid, and I never thought I'd be the candidate because I know this will come as a shock to you. I was once even nerdier than I am now. I was much nerdier than I am now, and I know this is good. This is going to be tough for some of you folks to understand. And so I always thought that I'd be the campaign manager, the guy behind the scenes. Luckily, California has an elective office designed for nerds. Now, none of the people who hold the office now are nerds, but they really should be, because I'll give you a bit of a background. I started my career as a CPA. So far, the nerd thing was working pretty well. And then my friends insisted I find an occupation held in lower public esteem. So I went to law school. Then I practiced law for about 10 years. Tax law, still got the nerdy thing looking for me. And my friends came to me and they said, Brad, you know what people think of lawyers? I did. They said, it's not low enough for you. They didn't think politician was low enough. They didn't think mortician was low enough. California is the only state with an elected tax commission. It's called the State Board of Equalization. And so I got elected in 1990. And it's to an office that made me simultaneously a politician and a tax collector. My friends thought I'd reached the appropriate level. But as I say, this is an office for where you write tax regulations. So on the one hand, you expect politicians to be, good-looking, poised guys. On the other hand, who do you expect to write tax regulations? CPA tax lawyers. So I fit in well, and I thought I was pretty qualified for that position. 6 years later, my predecessor announced his retirement from a district. You know, they redraw these districts every 10 years. But the district back in the 90s went from Sherman Oaks, which I might say is, I think, America's best named city, Sherman Oaks, all the way up to Thousand Oaks. And if you know anything about local politics, you know it gets more Republican every mile as you go from Sherman Oaks to Thousand Oaks. And it was a swing district that Democrats had held but could lose. So the Democrats say, oh, we need a popular candidate we can unite behind. Naturally, they chose a tax collector, being Democrats. And that was the key to the success of the campaign, because I could run as a tax collector on the slogan, send Brad to Washington, or he may come visit you. I didn't use that. Anyway, it was a tough race in 1996, won it by just a few points, and I've been in Congress ever since. It wasn't until they redrew the districts in 2001 that the Northwest Valley became part of my district. In some ways, I lost Thousand Oaks and picked up Northridge and Granada Hills.